What's up, everybody? Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, HAWGsports.com. Tennessee at Arkansas. Game week is finally here. Obviously, it's been here, but it's just a few days away from this game and should be a great crowd in Fayetteville and a night game, obviously, ABC. Herb Street's going to be there, Fowler. I mean, what more could you ask for? Maybe a competitive matchup. That would be nice. A nice home game. It's been a while. It's been since 2022, really, against Ole Miss, since Arkansas has had a really enjoyable home game for the crowd in Razorback Stadium. We're going to bring in Wes Rucker over at GoVols 24/7, senior writer over there. He's going to help us break down the matchup. Of course, Connor Goodson's going to give us some insight into it, and Danny West as well. Talk a little bit about basketball also. We had John Calipari this week, and then there's a good group of visitors coming in for recruiting. All that and more on today's episode of Hog Sports Live. Take a moment to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts if you haven't done so already. We'd really appreciate that. It certainly helps boost that podcast channel. And give us a thumbs up or a like on Facebook, YouTube, comment on Twitter, X. We're at a lot of different places. We're also streaming on Instagram as well. So a lot of different ways to watch and listen to the show. And Hog Sports right now is 30% off. That breaks down to $75.18 for the entire year. It's a discount of $44.22. Been some really interesting activity going on over at Hog Sports and on the message board. A lot of great discussion. And we're right away from basketball season. We're in the middle of it with football season. A lot of important recruiting stuff going on. So for the diehards out there, come check us out at HawgSports.com. If you're a casual fan, I understand, watch the show, enjoy our free content that we put out. Most of that stuff comes from press conferences and things like that, or press releases. But our in-depth editorial, inside information, recruiting news and stuff, that is VIP, and it's a great price right now at 30% off. All right, looking at Bet Saracen, Arkansas is now down to 13.5, plus 13.5 against Tennessee. The money line for Arkansas is plus 425. And for Tennessee, it's minus 525. The over-under is at 58 right now on Bet Saracen. A lot of interesting prop bets on there as well. So one of the interesting storylines in this, obviously we talk a lot about personnel stuff, but Addison Nichols, Danico Slaughter, both former Tennessee players. So that's going to have some meaning. Josh Braun commented on a little bit because he played Florida last year, and he said, it matters for 5 minutes or something like that. And the pregame stuff, it means something to you. And then eventually it's just about playing football. But that is an interesting storyline. Anytime you've got former players playing their former team. Would have loved to talk to both of those guys this week, but we didn't get an opportunity to do that. The official injury report, obviously, that comes out every Wednesday between 7 and 7:10. And for Arkansas, you've got Hudson Clark, probable with the back. Monte Harrison with an undisclosed injury, also listed at probable. So that's good if they can get Hudson Clark back. Questionable, Luke Has back. I kind of read questionable as to not playing. But there's some concern at tight end. So maybe they can get one of those guys back, because Ty Washington is also listed as questionable. He's got something going on with his lower leg, I believe, just based on when I saw him go down once. You've also got Andreas Posca as doubtful. So 3 tight ends in trouble there. Arkansas uses a lot of tight ends. They worked a lot of 12 personnel, a lot of sets with 3 tight ends on the field and stuff during practices that I saw. So that's a big part of their game plan. And to have maybe 3 guys out is a little bit concerning. I would guess they probably get one of these guys back. If I had to guess which one, I would say probably Ty Washington. I kind of think Luke Has sits this one, and because they need his back to get healthy, and there's no reason in just pushing it if it's not ever going to get healthy. It seems like every time he goes out there and catches a pass, it's like, oh, my back. Like, let's get this guy healthy because they're going to need him down the stretch. Jalen Braxton is out, unfortunate. He has been out for a while, since Oklahoma State. So that's not looking good for him. I mean, there's maybe a possible red shirt. We view Braxton as a guy that has potential at the next level. So maybe a red shirt isn't the answer for him if he were to leave early or something one day. Patrick Kudus, of course, is out. Miguel Mitchell's out. Both those guys have missed the entire season so far. Shafre Brown is out, and Rodney Hill is out, who Rodney, I believe, played a little bit in the last game. So maybe something happened there. For Tennessee, it's not a whole lot. Jordan Thomas, a defensive back, John Slaughter, defensive back, Edwin Spillman, a linebacker, and Montrell Bandy, a defensive back, are all out. Nobody listed as questionable, nobody listed as probable, and that could also be a product of being able to rest players because you had a bye week. I think it's wild that Arkansas has been on this murderous road stretch and they come back home to face the number 4 ranked team in the country when they're coming off of a bye week. And Arkansas is pretty beaten up. It's just the schedule you live as an Arkansas player, fan, whatever. EA Sports revamped, for those who like EA Sports or college football, which I do, they revamped the Arkansas player ratings. They revamped like 1,500 players across the country. They got it wrong. They should come to me and ask, like, I've got a pretty good idea of what everybody should be rated. You know, to me, like, if you're going to be drafted in the NFL or like an all SEC type of player, you should at least be like a 90, 89 at the worst. So they moved Jaquindon Jackson up 1 spot to an 87 overall. That's fair, I guess. I would probably say maybe a little bit higher. Fernando Carmona up 4 points to an 83. Tyrone Broden up 4 points to an 80. That's where I'm a little confused. I know he's starting, but why should he be on the same level as Isaiah Satania, who moved up 3 spots, and Isaac TeSlaa, who moved up 1 spot? All 3 of those guys are 80s, but they haven't been equal players. I don't know why they would do it like that. So to me, Satania should be up a little bit more, maybe 83, 84. So people may not say that's not very good, but it's, think about like Portnoy's pizza reviews or something. He rarely if you get a 8.5, that's a pretty good score. Anthony Switzer moved to middle linebacker and dropped 2 spots down to an 80. Maybe an 80 is fine for him, but I feel like he should move to outside linebacker from safety. Shafre Brown moved to an 80, down 2 spots. Why should Shafre Brown be the same as Broden, Satania, and TeSlaa at an 80? Rodney Hill moved up 1 to a 79. TJ Metcalf moved up 4 to a 78. I would have moved up TJ Metcalf a little more significantly. I think his play early this season has warranted him maybe in the 84. If you're a sophomore, 84, that's a pretty good rating because that means as a junior, you could be like upper 80s, maybe even a 90 or something with like the offseason improvement. So Brad Spence moved up 3 spots to a 77. DeBinion moved down 1 spot to a 78. Nico Davier moved up 2 spots to a 77. Nico should be like an 83, 84, something like that. He's had a pretty good year so far. Larry Worth up 2 spots to a 76. I keep saying spots. It's just points. Braylon Russell up 1 point to a 71. That one irks me a little bit because the guideline, like for a 4-star player, generally you're going to be like a 74, 75, maybe a 76 as a true freshman, and he's a 71. He's a 4-star back. I think they have him as a 3-star. There must be you in the ESPN rankings or something. So maybe that's why. But I could do this for them. No players moved up dramatically. Again, they re-ranked like 1,500 players. I say that. There was like a guy that moved up 27 spots from Bowling Green or something. Another moved up like 20 spots from Buffalo. But they were like 76 and 77s overall after the move up. So had them dramatically low. So there are no 99s in the game. So I don't know why. Like I feel like the highest guy is like maybe a 95 or 96 overall. But like if there's one player or one that should be, if there's one that should be like a 99, it would have to be Ozarks Go. Ozarks Go is 99 out of 100 internet. Maybe it's 100 out of 100. I've had 100% uptime the whole time. I'll call you back, Josh. I've had 100% uptime the whole time. Never had to unplug my router or plug it back in again. 479-684-4900. You can reach out to them at ozarksgo.net/hawg. That's HAWG. And if you enter the promo code BIDDY1, BIDDY1, you can get 1 month for free. They're in Northwest Arkansas, I think north of the tunnel, parts of Oklahoma, expanding out in Rogers, all over. They're ever expanding. So go check them out at the website and see if they're available in your area. I give them my stamp of approval. Been a long-time subscriber of theirs even before they became a sponsor of the show. ozarksgo.net/hawg. I don't know if there was like a whole lot of updates for the Tennessee game from Sam Pittman on Wednesday. I mean, we know he just kind of talked about the D-line. We know they're extremely deep on they've got like 4 seniors at defensive tackle who are like 320 to 340. It's a veteran group. They've got another guy on the edge who was a first-team All-SEC pick last year who had James Pierce. He had 9.5 sacks last year. He only has a half sack this year. He's only played in 2 games. Iamaleava, obviously, Nico Iamaleava. I've worked on that. Tua Tagovailoa was a hard one, but Nico Iamaleava was like, I'm like singing songs and all kinds of different mechanisms because I was like, okay, I got it. And then it would be time to say it, Nico Iamaleava, and I wouldn't be able to say it. So I've like broken it down into different parts. I've created, Iamaleava, like little songs because, we're going to be saying this guy's name a lot, and we're going to ask Danny West here in a little bit. So Danny, if you're paying attention, you're about to get asked how to say Iamaleava. It should be entertaining with his rising accent. Tennessee transfers. We talked about Addison Nichols and Danico Slaughter. So not a whole lot from Sam Pittman out of his last teleconference with the media on Wednesday, and really not a lot from Josh Heupel either, the Tennessee coach. Just kind of normal. Well, if we get to some time at the end of the show, we'll get to some of your questions. We haven't really done that in a while, but we've just kind of been packing everything in because we've had, usually have a guest from another site, and we're going to have Wes Rucker here in a little bit, the senior writer over at GoVols 24/7. He's been covering Tennessee football since 2000. So this entire century he's been covering, not at full century, but since the turn of the century, he's been covering Tennessee Vols. This dude has like 126,000 Twitter followers, which is a lot for a local reporter. So, if you want volunteer information, go check him out. I told him 11:55, but I feel like we're pretty well ready to go. We've basically covered most of the things I wanted to cover leading up to him. So we're going to go ahead and bring in Wes Rucker. Hopefully he's ready and available, even though we're a little bit early. Okay, Wes, again, you can follow him at Wes Rucker 24/7. Senior writer at GoVols 24/7, and does a great job over there. Wes, how's it going, man?
Doing well. How y'all doing?
We're doing good over here in Fayetteville, Arkansas. You making the trip, by the way? I know it's this will be
this is the first time in a while that I've not made the trip. Actually, I'm a little unhappy about that, but also I'm not, because I just got back from Oklahoma City and then spent a week in London with my wife. So
wow.
I'm not too broken up about it, but I definitely like Fayetteville, so I hate that part.
Yeah, well, it'll probably be a while before your next opportunity. I don't know with the new scheduling thing that comes out in 26. Who knows what they might put together for you? But I understand it. In SEC country, I don't know if people understand sometimes the difficulty in traveling to these towns, and like pro teams are all in big cities, so you just fly right in. But if you live in like Knoxville or Fayetteville or something, it's connections, and it's just like there's no easy way to get to Starkville. There's no easy way to get to Oxford. You know what I mean? So
it's also a night game too. So that to get our podcast out and do some other stuff. Basically, what we do is for this game, we've got our 4-man full-time staff, and two of us are going, 2 of us are staying. So that's how we did it this time.
Yeah, I hear you. Good deal. So we'll jump right into it. And we're not going to stray too far from some of the questions I had posed to you earlier, but coming off of a bye week, which was it's a good time for a bye week. What's the latest with the injury report, and like who's been out and maybe who's coming back?
Well, I think that by far the biggest thing for Tennessee is those offensive tackles who, Tennessee went into that game against Oklahoma without left tackle Lance Hurd, and then, right tackle John Campbell got hurt early in the game, and then he was out for the rest of the game. So basically, they played almost the entire game without both first-team offensive tackles. Looks like both those guys are back this week. Lance Hurd was not even listed on the report this time. So basically, Jordan Thomas, who was going to be the starting nickel going into the season, he got hurt in camp and he's done for the year. Other than that, it's a couple of special teams guys, some other stuff, but nothing in terms of the two deep that's really looks bad for them. So, for them, I imagine, knock on wood, but they seem to be pretty good right now.
Yeah. Do they always put the injury report out like that, just out because there's no probable, there's no questionable, or is that just a product of the bye?
My guess would be that's a product of the buy. Now I know that it's funny. I think, I've said this before. Josh Heupel is a really agreeable guy. He's a really easy guy to get along with, and he will tell you a lot of stuff. He does not like talking injuries.
Mm-hmm.
He just doesn't. He's one of those coaches. So I've not seen any tomfoolery with this week. In fact, a couple weeks ago, Lance Hurd was listed as questionable going into the week, and I said, well, I heard he was going to play. That seems kind of weird. And then Friday night, boom, he's not making the trip and he's out. So they've been pretty upfront about some of this stuff more this season. So I think that they're required to be. So it's not unusual for him to be a little bit trickery with the way he talks about some injuries, but I think they've been pretty on point this year.
I've had to come up. I was saying it before you came on. I had to come up with all kinds of mechanisms for Iamaleava to say that name properly. I mean, I don't know if I've ever struggled in like Iamaleava. Just did I nail it? Is that right? Am I getting it right?
Yeah, you can go Iamaleava is the way to do it. But also, I tell people all the time, if when in doubt, just say Nico. They know who you're talking about. So,
I just view it as a challenge. I want Tua Tagovailoa was difficult, and now it's Nico Iamaleava. But we all know about him. People talk about him a lot. What led him to Knoxville? Obviously, we talked about it, but NIL plays a role with every recruit nowadays. But this guy came all the way from Long Beach, California. He was the number 2 ranked prospect in the country on 24/7 Sports. What do you think was it that led him to Josh Heupel in Tennessee?
Yeah, I don't think anybody should be naive to the NIL component of it.
Right.
That this is, and Tennessee was really kind of trailblazing in that regard. Tennessee was one of the first to come out and be like, all right, this is how it's going to be. Things have been lined up for this, and boom, we're ready to go. Here's and it helps that Tennessee, to be honest, there's a couple of sports agencies that are located in Knoxville and have a bunch of NFL players and stuff. So there had been sort of an infrastructure for that stuff to begin with. So that helped them. But that was a big part of it. Certainly that gets you in the door. But after that, you still have to, there's a lot of Tennessee's gotten some guys over the years that have turned down more money elsewhere to come to Tennessee. So it's not just that. I think he really enjoyed watching that offense with Hendon Hooker and those guys. And he saw himself as a good fit for that offense. Tennessee put the full court press on him, showed him a lot of love, went out to see him a lot, brought him in to visit as much as they possibly could. They hit it off really, really quickly in that relationship. And Tennessee felt good for a long time about getting him, because there were a lot of eggs in that basket. If not him, I think they would have gone for that Kansas State quarterback. I think he was number 2 on their list. The young kid there,
Avery,
who's really talented.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think they were all chips in on Nico. And then really, if you look at what they've done now, I mean, they got 5-star quarterbacks committed for the next 2 classes already too. So they've done the job there.
Well, good for Tennessee.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird because I sat there for a dozen years saying, what the hell is Tennessee doing?
Yeah.
All the time. So it's like now, okay, yeah, this is what you should be doing.
So we talked a little bit about the offensive line. You touched on some of that. Obviously, for those who know, when Tennessee's healthy, they've got 4 senior starting offensive linemen. One's a converted tight end who played offensive line last year, I guess, and the other is a sophomore 5-star. So we won't go too much into that, but flipping it over to the other side of the ball, when you look at like the major categories, like total defense, rushing defense, pass defense, all those kinds of things, scoring defense, there's like a steady progression from 21 to 22 to 23 to 2024, all the way up to where they're leading or at near the top of the nation in these categories. What has been the secret to what they've got going on? I know they're very experienced up front, a little younger on the back end.
Yeah, I mean, basically they've built this thing, from the line of scrimmage back. There's no secret. It's throughout the test of time. It stands the test of time that if you have a really good defensive line, you are going to be competitive in this sport.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean you're going to be great, but it means you're not going to be bad. And Tennessee, it's taken them a while, but has built a defensive line that finally kind of coming out of the tunnel looks the way that Tennessee fans think a Tennessee defensive line should look. Those guys are very, very big. They are very, very good. There may only be like a couple of first-round picks in that group, but there's about 10 dudes who I think could play in the league. They're three deep at every position up front. There's even a 5-star edge, Jordan Ross, who's looked really good every time they've gotten him on the field. But some weeks they can't get him on the field much because they've got other guys, and that's been the thing. They've developed these guys. Some of them were big prospects. Some of them were solid prospects who were really kind of diamonds that Tennessee uncovered, and they've been really good there. And I think they've been so good up front that it makes me I still have questions about Tennessee's secondary. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that they're bad. I don't think that they're bad. Tennessee has beaten up. I mean, Tennessee has reset the line of scrimmage almost every snap against every opponent all season. And when you do that, it just makes it hard to see, if there's any problems on the back end, because the quarterback can't stay off of his backside long enough to make you hurt there. So running right at Tennessee is usually difficult. Arkansas is going to try that because that's Arkansas's game in a lot of ways. They got big backs. I would try it too. But that's Tennessee for a couple of years in a row now. It's been hard to run right up the middle on Tennessee. And they plug that up, and then they come get you with guys like Pierce and Josephs off the edge. They are good. I still think if you can hold up, you have a chance, or a quarterback can buy time and evade pressure. I think there are some plays that could be hit maybe against that secondary. Mm-hmm. There's still some questions there, but they got to face somebody who can do that, and so far no one has.
I'm going to flip you back over to offense. We're going to talk about Dylan Sampson a little bit, junior running back, who's from Baton Rouge originally. I'm curious how he ended up over at Tennessee and got away from LSU.
Fans.
Yeah. And then just what about his game and how he fits into this offense?
Yeah, there's so many players down there in the swamps that, sometimes they just, sometimes they leak out of there. And Tennessee loved Dylan Sampson, wanted him the whole time. And, it's interesting. Tennessee's running backs coach used to be at Cincinnati, and he wanted him there, or at Louisville, and he wanted him there and tried to recruit him. Sampson is just a guy who, if you were to build a team or build a running back for a Josh Heupel offense, you would want one that looked a little bit like Dylan Sampson. I mean, he's a guy he's stout, but he's very, very quick. He's really quick. He has a second and third and fourth gear he can get to. He's maybe not as upper end, like top end fast as Jalen Wright has been the past couple seasons for Tennessee, but he's probably quicker, and he gets through the hole quicker, and he can catch the ball. He's good in pass pro. He's surprisingly durable in terms of, you can give him a bunch of carries if you need to, and he can fall forward. He's really smart. He's a big leader in the program. He picks up the offense quickly. He's just kind of a complete back. And the way that I describe him is Josh Heupel does not criticize really any of his players publicly. He's kind of old school in that way. He doesn't do that. But he also doesn't just offer effusive praise very often. Like he always kind of is guarded with his comments and said, yeah, this was good, but could be better, and we're working on things. He kind of answers it like a coach in that way. But when he talks about Dylan Sampson, he goes, I can ask that kid to do anything and he'll do it. And we love him and he's awesome, basically is what he says. And so that's what they think about him in the program. And they got a couple of good backs behind him, but Sampson, if it's a tight game for 4 quarters and Sampson's healthy, he's the bell cow.
Yeah, 449 yards rushing, 112 yards per game so far, 10 touchdowns, both lead the SEC. Impressive back. We'll get you out of here with this one. How do you see things playing out on Saturday? And if you got a score prediction, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I haven't come up with a final score just yet. I actually need to do that at some point tonight.
You probably should
get that out for the morning. Yeah. But I've said I never feel that comfortable when Tennessee, if I'm speaking for Tennessee, when it goes to Fayetteville to play any sport. I just think I've seen so many things over the years there where there's just some places where the team you cover has just never looks great. And Fayetteville tends to be that place, one of those places for Tennessee. And so when that line opened where it was, I wasn't surprised, but how quickly it moved to 14 or whatever, that surprised me because it jumped in a hurry. Mm-hmm. I don't see this being any kind of a rout. Like Arkansas got blown out twice late in last season when things had kind of packed in a little bit, things take their toll. But since Sam's been there, they've been competitive consistently every week. And so I don't know why this would be different. It's an SEC road environment at night, unless Tennessee gets out in a hurry. I mean, if Tennessee gets out in a hurry, Tennessee gets scary. It gets downhill on you. It goes fast. I mean, it kind of has those touchdown drives that are like a punk rock album, like 130, 145, 205. Like, there's no stairway to heavens in there. Like, they're going fast. And if they do that early and they get up, then it can get bad. But I don't know that I see that happening. I see this being kind of a closer competitive game. Tennessee relies on that defense. Arkansas makes a couple plays here and there, maybe a special teams play, a fake. They're good at that kind of stuff, although Tennessee's good on special teams too. But I just don't see this being a rout. I mean, I see this being where Tennessee wins by, I don't know, 10 points, something like that. And I think it's a game where, like most games, Arkansas is right there in the fourth quarter. I've been surprised before, but I'd be surprised if this is an ugly game.
All right, Wes. Appreciate you hopping on, man. We'll talk to you again soon.
No problem. Anytime. You know that, man. Happy to do it.
Okay. All right, everybody. That's Wes Rucker. Again, follow him at Wes Rucker 24/7 on X, and he is the Go Vols 24/7 senior writer. Tennessee leads this series 13-6 all time. Arkansas has won the last 3. Tennessee has not been to Fayetteville since 2020. Arkansas won 24-13 in that one. The time before that, great game, Brett Bielema era. In 2015, Arkansas won 24-20. And then the time before that was 2011, the Joe Adams punt return game where Arkansas mopped the floor with them 49-7. Those are the Derek Dooley days and the Bobby Petrino days at Arkansas. So different eras for each of those recent games. Wes hasn't seen Arkansas play at home lately. Arkansas has not played a good home game since week 12 of 2022 against Ole Miss. So, but they have played a lot of close games. I mean, the number is what, 3-11? And it's going back to 2022. If you cover all the games, his last ones are like 2-11. But if you cover all the games, including that Cincinnati game where, starting the season, he is 3-11 in one-score games. Now, the side note of that is that's a lot of close games. They're in a lot of close games. And I think what should be recognized, I'm not saying you have to love it, but what's different and from this era and like the Chad Morris era is in Chad Morris era, we were watching a quarter of football and it was over and the stadium's emptying out. Now, there have been some games like that, obviously the way season ended last year, but for the most part, we're watching 4 quarters of football. We may not like the outcome. We may not like how they perform at home against some of the lesser conference teams, but we're still watching football games. And that wasn't the case at all with Chad Morris. They just seem to find ways to lose games. And I've said before, like the Texas A&M game is disappointing because you're taking, a first-year coach, and usually that means a lot of changeover, a lot of culture, a lot of newness, and a lot of issues pop up like turnovers and penalties and stuff. And they had a redshirt freshman quarterback starting his 3rd game. And that to me is an opportunity to take advantage of a team that is overall more talented than Arkansas. Well, you can like me saying that or not. It's true. Texas A&M has more overall talent. You can look at it by any metric you want, projected draft picks, team talent composite, recruiting rankings, all that kind of stuff. They have more talent. So this was an opportunity to take advantage of that, and they failed in the sense that they had 10 penalties for 75 yards, and they turned the ball over 3 times. And A&M had no turnovers and really had I think 5 or 6 penalties before the personal fouls started piling up after the game was over when that fumble was recovered. So that was disappointing in that sense, but I'm still more when I look back at it, the Oklahoma State game, there's an opportunity. Sam Pittman comes into the season on the hottest seat in the country. One of the biggest knocks about him is that he can't win close games, and they just found a way to lose against Oklahoma State, a team that they out-talent and out-resource, and they lost that game, and it seems like they just kind of found a way. Now, there's a lot of newness with Arkansas, but they just had an opportunity to really step on their throats and couldn't ever do it, let Oklahoma State back in the game, and they ended up beating them. And to me, that is more damning than the Texas A&M loss. We'll see how things perform at home. Again, I agree with Wes in a lot of ways. People, think that this is just going to be an utter blowout, and it has the makings to do that because you get the sense that Arkansas is a little beat up. Tennessee's coming off of a bye week. They're ranked number 4 in the nation. They just went to Oklahoma and probably beat them worse than the score indicates. And so, yeah, this has all the makings of it, but it's still an SEC road game at night. And Arkansas is still going to prepare to beat Tennessee, and they're going to show up for the game. Now, I think most of us project them to lose the game. Wes had them probably losing about 10 points. The line is 13.5 right now. So let's go to Connor. Connor's going to help us break down. Connor's been looking at this Tennessee offense a good bit, but he also asked the 5 questions that we love and the keys to victory. So let's see what he's got going on today. And we'll talk to him a little bit about basketball because we were both at John Calipari's press conference as well. Connor, how's it going?
What's up, Trey?
Oh, not much. Just had Wes on talking a little bit, giving us some good insight on the Tennessee Volunteers. I had a guy complain in our comments on Monday's show. I guess he doesn't watch the show because, even though I title it like Tennessee at Arkansas game week, we still talk majority about the last game and then touch on it. He's like, this is clickbait. I was like, dude, it's like we do a Thursday show and we will cover it more in depth. So you've taken a look at this and you ask the questions, the 5 burning questions and stuff. Well, we also do the keys to victory. And as we say, they're always the same pretty much. I'm trying to scroll through here. Okay. Penalties, turnovers, special teams, injuries. You look at that Texas A&M game and you can figure it out that those are all very important. But you always ask a 5th one that's a little different and we have a little fun with it. And this time it's party like it's 1999.
Yeah, I was it's pretty crazy to think that I was 5 years old the last time Arkansas beat a top 5 team in Fayetteville. I feel like there's always so many like premier games. Like you think back to that Alabama game in 2010 and, there's been countless other examples of that. And it's just kind of hard to believe. Like when you first hear that, you're just like, surely they've knocked off somebody because, on the road, they've beaten like Auburn, they've beaten Texas and
LSU.
Top teams like LSU countless times. But it's been since Tennessee came into Fayetteville in 1999. Yeah. I was 5 years old. So I don't remember the game vividly, like being there in the moment. But we had a VCR tape of this specific game, the old Jefferson Pilot broadcast. And I remember watching the crap out of that game over and over again as a kid because it was just fun to relive a close game and watch it on TV and stuff. So I remember it through that, but I wasn't there. And
You're going to love this story. I don't know if I've ever told you this. And some of you listening may have heard it once before. So this is our age different. I was a student. I was a junior in college at the University of Arkansas during that game. So I'm in the student section and it's getting to the point where Arkansas is going to win. And so we start coming down. There's one opening where you can get out from the student section onto the field. And we all start, gravitating towards that and it's getting packed in. This is like when people getting crushed by crowds was kind of a thing when people were talking about that. And I get down to that area and the pressure is so intense behind me that I launch out of there. And I'm like, pretty big, 212 pounds at the time, and I launch out of there and my momentum's carrying me and the flag girls had laid their flags out and I am trying to step. I can't stop myself. I can't stop my momentum. And I'm trying to step in between the flags, but I step on every one of them. And they're like plastic, like a hollow plastic thing. I've never held one before, but it's hollow and plastic. And I mean, I could just feel them crushing underneath my feet. And it looked like I was just like if you just turned around and look, it probably looked like I was just dancing on those flags and crushing them, like celebrating or something. And one of the flag girls screams at me. She goes, "You a-hole." And I'm yelling back at her. I'm like, "I'm sorry." Anyway, and I go over to the goalpost and they're tearing it down and hanging on and I'm underneath it. And when it snaps, the sound that the goalpost makes is not what you would think. It's almost like a old baseball bat, the old aluminum bat. So it goes, it's just like a bing. It's like a loud ping sound when it snaps, and it snapped and it like went down like right over me, not, and kind of caught. But I was there for all of that. So
are you in the famous pictures of it, of like
you can see me. I believe you can see me. Like if you're watching the video, you can see me down there. If I remember, I don't recall taking any pictures that. I think I went back over to the Fidel house pretty quick after, but and I went down to Dixon Street. They closed. This is before you could have Dixon, alcohol on Dixon Street, but they closed Dixon Street down. Everybody's walking up and down. Rossi Moriali, who was one of my pledge brothers, who was on the team, he returned punts. He's like, "Biddy, buy me a beer," and I go, "You dropped a punt. I'm not buying you a beer." he must have punt in the game. Yeah. So, but anyway,
I'm surprised they didn't add those flags to your tuition total. Those broken
well,
flags.
they couldn't have pinned that on me. It wasn't my fault, but man, if you turned around and looked, it looked like I was just dancing and crushing flags. Like that was my celebration. And she didn't say a-hole; she said the full thing. I felt like crap.
Of course, but
I got over it.
yeah, I mean, the moment was bigger than some cheap plastic hollow flags.
Right. But I wonder what they did though after that. Do they have backup flags? I always wondered about that. So.
Surely. Maybe someone can comment from the flag band or something can comment what they do with broken flags if they have replacements or something.
I may have to dig into that. Can you say this quarterback's name?
Nico Iamaleava.
There you go, Iamaleava.
I have taken your approach, and you have to make like songs and make it like break it down syllable by syllable.
Iamaleava.
Yeah, I actually found a YouTube video where he was saying it, and I had to slow it down to like half speed to get how exactly he was saying it. But yeah, Nico Iamaleava.
There you go. Can they contain him?
That's the big question. I was looking back at the Oklahoma game, and I thought Oklahoma did a really good job of limiting their running game. Obviously, they ran for like 26 carries for like 51 times for 150 something yards, and which is like under 3 yards a carry, which is really good. And was really struggling. He struggles with making the downfield passes. And look, they're not going to sit back there and make a guy who only has 4 career starts or 5 career starts go through like this, long progression where he has 4 different options and has to look downfield. They're not going to do that. They're going to come out. They're going to make Arkansas, stop the quick stuff, the RPOs, the things that we've seen, like Auburn and UAB had a lot of success with the quick underneath stuff. So you're going to see a lot of that. And then obviously his improvising ability and running ability is, really, really good. Sam Pittman talked about it too. And that's going to be a huge concern for this Arkansas defense is if they do take away some of the smaller, the short stuff and really limit them in that, Nico can really make you pay with his legs and make something out of nothing, a lot like how Taylor Green has done at times. But that's going to be the key is if they can stop him, get after him, get some pressure like we saw them do a little bit better job of last week. It wasn't necessarily like consistent enough, and then they kind of let go of the rope at the end of the Texas A&M game. But I thought that they did a fairly good job of pressuring Marcel Reed, and if they can do that and force Nico into some mistakes, then I think that this game will be a lot closer than some of the people are expecting it to be.
Yeah, and now on the other side of the ball, you got one guy, Nico Iamaleava, he's just super confident. He's got a veteran offensive line in front of him. He's got weapons all around him. He's got a defense that's there to support him. And then you flip it to the other side, and you got Taylor Green, who's lacking confidence right now.
Yeah, and a lot of people were kind of upset that Sam said that, but I mean, if you're watching Taylor Green's body language, I mean,
you can see it.
It's obvious. You can see it. So it's not like he was saying something groundbreaking with making that comment. I mean, yeah, I guess some people could interpret it that he's calling his quarterback out, but that's not. He's just telling it how it is. I mean, if you were getting pounded and making mistakes because you were on your back so much, I mean, you would lack the confidence too. He doesn't have confidence in his ability. He doesn't have confidence in his offensive line's ability, and you can't really blame him because, I mean, he just doesn't have the time he needs to do the things he has to do. And we already knew that he was going to struggle throwing the ball coming into the season. We knew that there was going to be times where you're like, what the heck is he doing? Why? How can he not make that throw? We knew that was going to come in. And so you add pressure problems and protection problems on top of that, and it just exacerbates everything else. So he's got to get some confidence. You got to, really get him going early, and the offensive line just has to be better. I think if you see a better offensive line and you see Taylor Green come out throwing with confidence, I think you're going to see a lot better Arkansas offense than you saw last week.
I think more than anything, he's not – I don't know if he's calling out anybody because Pittman usually takes the blame. But if anything, it's the offensive line that he's calling out, because the reason that the quarterback's lacking confidence is because he's getting hit all over and over again. And he also pointed to there's nowhere to step up into because the front's getting pushed back. And maybe that's a message to Addison Nichols, who's facing his former team. I think this has got to be – Arkansas needs to make this a low-scoring game. Luckily for Arkansas, the defense is playing very well and has all season. And, in this one, you've got a running back in Dylan Sampson who's producing a lot of yards and he's still a young quarterback. If they can make this a low-scoring game, maybe Arkansas can stay in it into the fourth quarter. And if you can do that, then maybe you have a chance to win. I don't think either of us are going to predict that, but that's the recipe.
Right. That's what Oklahoma did. I mean, they made it an ugly game where, Nico really wasn't getting into a rhythm. The running game, they were trying to run it at will, but they weren't having success in ripping off big plays. Oklahoma just couldn't take advantage of opportunities, and they have their own set of issues on the offensive ball up there in Norman. But, that's the recipe for beating the Tennessee team is you have to make it ugly. You have to make it a downright fight in the trenches for every inch, every yard. And you have to really just eliminate explosive plays and keep everything in front of you and just hope that the offense can put it together enough to score more points than Tennessee at the end.
All right, real quick, how do you see it playing out?
I'm not very confident just because of the offensive line issues and Tennessee coming off the bye. I mean, it's always an issue for the team that's not coming off the bye. Sam Pittman's talked about it. We've talked about it. It's going to be difficult for Arkansas with the injuries that they have at key positions, with the issues, the offensive line. I think Tennessee's defensive line is as good. We've talked about them to death, but they're extremely talented. I just see it being tough. I think Arkansas can make it ugly. I think that they can score enough to where the crowd kind of lifts them up and helps them play better and forces Tennessee into some mistakes. But I think ultimately Tennessee wins this one, like I want to say 31-21, maybe, where it's a little close, but they get a little bit of breathing room at the end.
Yeah, I'm somewhere around 31-17 or something like that. Maybe a 28-17 or something. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I think we'll be able to watch a game at least for 3 quarters, and we'll see how it plays out. All right, Connor, appreciate you, man. We didn't talk any basketball, but guys, all the basketball stuff is at HawgSports. Any impressions real quick? I said we would talk about it, so let's touch on it real quick. Just your impressions from the press conference we attended on Tuesday.
Well, it's always good to hear from Coach Cal, and it was a long 46-minute presser where
he's a storyteller.
He's a storyteller. He loves to talk and tell stories. But it was good to hear from him. I'm leaning towards I want to hear more just about the team and specific guys and maybe the rotation and stuff. But I get that it's hard when they haven't officially started practice. And we heard a little bit about DJ Wagner, a little bit about his guys from Kentucky that are on the team. But I'm kind of itching to get some games in and actually see this team and have more to talk about than just the surface level like culture, foundation building stuff. But it was good to hear from him, and it's about that time. End of this month, the Arkansas and Kansas in the exhibition game will be huge, and then obviously they have the 2 Pine Bluff and Hot Springs exhibition clinic things. But it's right around the corner.
All right, Connor, appreciate you, brother.
All right, thanks, Trey.
All right, everybody. That's Connor Goodson. Again, follow him at Connor Goodson on Twitter. HawgSports recruiting analyst for basketball and the overall hoops analyst for the entire team. So I asked Calipari, I asked him like 3 or 4 questions. I think 4 questions. Anyway, one of the questions I asked him was like, you've been around the block. Anything surprised you since you've been to Fayetteville? And he's like, I was sitting outside of Cheers on the bench and this weird animal popped up. I have no idea. I was like, what was that? Not much this guy hasn't seen, I guess. So anyway, you can read all of our breakdowns on the Calipari press conference at HawgSports, HAWG. Let's go to Danny West now. Danny is a HawgSports football recruiting analyst and also helps us with Razorback team coverage as well, does a little bit of everything for us. But if you want to read Danny's content, then you go to HawgSports.com. You will need a VIP subscription for most of it because most of it is VIP. And you can also follow him at Danny West 24/7 on X.
Hey, buddy.
Say that quarterback's name, Danny.
Nico. I'm going to leave it at that. How about that?
Nico, I'm going to leave it at that. There you go. That was perfect.
Nico, I'm going to leave it at that.
All right, Danny. So big game coming up. You've kind of taken a look at this Tennessee offense and how they match up with the defense. How does it match up?
Well, it's daunting to say the least. I mean, yes. They rank first or top 5 in a lot of categories. I want to say they're 4th in rushing, top 30 or so in passing, but just total offense. They've got weapons. Sampson, buddy. I don't know that people realize he's how good he is.
Yeah.
10 touchdowns in 4 games. You got to be kidding. That's just incredible. But just as a general big picture view, Trey, it wouldn't shock me if Arkansas could find a way to make this thing interesting. Of course, don't have a ton of confidence in that. This is a spot that Arkansas really hasn't played well in. I'm sure we've rehashed that already on the show, but just coming home from long road trips like this, they've been really disappointing in Fayetteville. And obviously Tennessee coming off well rested, a bye week. So you asked me about the offense specifically. I'm working my way around it, but man, there's a lot to not like.
Yeah. Well, Danny, just real quick on your point about coming home from long road stretches. I mean, you remember it was after that Alabama game. They'd played Ole Miss and Alabama on the road back to back, and Hunter Yurchek puts out that tweet: "This team deserves a packed crowd in Fayetteville and against Mississippi State." And they lay an egg. They don't score an offensive touchdown. They lose 7-3 to a really bad Mississippi State team in Fayetteville. And before that, I can remember was it 21 where
it's been 3 straight now. It's been Auburn, Liberty, and Mississippi State.
They came back and played like crap against Auburn and almost played like they thought Auburn owed them something. What was the other one? What was 2022?
Liberty got them. Hugh Freeze got them.
Jeez. Yeah.
Same spot.
Yeah, so this team plays really well coming off of a bye week, but really poorly after a road stretch and returning to Fayetteville.
Yeah, that's right. And I've got my notes pulled up here now, Trey, so I was fumbling earlier. But, yeah, total offense is 3rd in the country. If there's one glaring – it's not glaring. It's just kind of middle of the pack. And sacks allowed, they're averaging 1.5 a game. They're 57th. It's middle of the pack. They're not bad. But, of course, to me, that's kind of where the game is for Arkansas to have any chance. You got to create a pass rush. And, of course, we saw Landon a week ago. He kind of woke up a little bit. So, Arkansas ranks 60th in the country in sacks. So that's a pretty good matchup to watch there. Third down wise, they're similar as well. Tennessee is 22nd nationally, and Arkansas in stopping third downs is 25th nationally. So kind of the game within the game there, I guess. Some things to watch on third down. And, of course, we're all going to be watching to see if Arkansas can create a pass rush. That Tennessee offensive line probably doesn't get the credit they deserve because the skill players over there get all the attention. Squirrel and Dylan, Nico, and a million other wide receivers. But that offensive line is veteran. The 3 on the left tackle, left guard, and, of course, Mays in the center. All former 4-star guys, heavily recruited, and then your right guard and your right tackle were 3 stars coming out, but they're both veterans, huge guys, experienced. They average 6'5", 325 across the starting line. So this is just a big SEC example is what it is. They've got it all.
Yeah, very veteran up front. A lot of people don't know. So aside from this like AI hog right over here, which I've been meaning to change, but and the intro, little 7-second intro video, I do all the graphics and stuff on here. And my goal is when the bye week arrives is to set something up for you, Danny. And because people have been asking, when's Danny going to come on live? We've got all the stuff that we need. We just need the time. And my plate is just like, I don't mean to complain. I mean, it's a fun job overall, but my plate's
I
just
get it.
spilling over. And so it's hard to find time to go through all that. But the goal in the bye week is to get Danny set up. So for moving forward, we'll have him in person most of the time. I mean, there'll be times where you're out of pocket, I'm sure. And we'll just do it like this.
Like Juracek said, the team deserves, to see a packed crowd. I think the people of Arkansas deserve to see my face, at this point.
Yeah, we'll let them decide after
I've
the
lost
fact.
some weight, too. You got me looking chunky up there. That picture's a few years old. I've lost about 35 since then. So.
Yeah, well, this is how I still think of you as the guy in the picture. So a lot of recruits coming into town, right, Danny?
Yeah, they're going to have a pretty good group. Sitting here looking at some names. Added a few more this morning. Coach Mop hit me up down at Maumelle.
Brian Mop.
Jordan, and yep. Shout out to Mop. He's always good to us. Jordan Harris, 2026, tight end, defensive end. He's got an offer from Arkansas. Jalen Harris, same school. 2026, Anthony Kennedy, defensive lineman out of Maumelle. Where's Hayden at? Hayden Sublette, 2027 defensive end, who's got an offer at Maumelle. So again, and the offers seem to follow wherever Brian Moppin goes. I mean, he's always going to have some dudes, and good for them to get back on campus. Grayson Wilson, of course, your quarterback. You always want him on campus for a home game if he lives 2 hours away, and he will be. I think Blake Cherry's coming over. Tavion Wallace, linebacker out of the that they got over the summer out of Georgia, big time. Their best recruit right now, Trey. He's planning on being there. And then, of course, we'll be adding a few more names throughout the day. I've got some more that I'll save for the site. But, it should be a pretty good group, and you would expect that. I think the weather is supposed to be warm and nice, so should be a good evening for them to get on campus again. You just hope the game goes well and doesn't get crazy because, not to rehash, but they haven't played well in the spot. This team is really good. They're outscoring people 78-3 in the first quarter. This thing, you got to withstand that first quarter. And Arkansas has been good to start. At least we're not talking about slow starts again with this year's team. They've
been good on third downs too,
for the most part. Yeah, been good on third downs, and it wouldn't totally shock me if they can make this thing interesting Saturday. But boy, it's a lot to ask them to win this one, in my opinion.
What's the score? What's your prediction?
Haven't gotten there yet, but
what's the margin?
I'd feel comfortable. A couple touchdowns, probably. I'm probably going 14-17.
All right, Danny.
Is the way I'm feeling right now.
Okay, Nico, I'll leave it at that.
I'll be sitting there beside you no matter what happens there.
Yeah, all right. Hey, Danny, also, before we get out, I don't know if you're able to make it, but I'm going to go over to the Hogtown area. We're going to have like a little bit of a kind of a HawgSports meetup. I'm going to go there around 3 o'clock, I guess. And the people from Arkansas Edge, the NIL collective, are also going to be there. So I think it's maybe a good time to maybe people to go down there and see the people at Arkansas Edge. People can always complain about NIL and stuff, but I mean, guys,
well, I'll tell you what,
you heard Wes Rucker talking about how proactive and on top of things Tennessee has been, and it's showing in their product.
That's right. I'll make you a deal. You come up with an extra 500,000, I'll be there.
You'll match it.
That's the way it's going, ain't it?
Yeah. I got it, dude. Brother. Like that slobbering hog's getting on that court. I can't imagine Hunter Yurachek putting that out.
What are you going to do? Come back and say, well, the fans.
Tough stuff, guys. The fans just didn't want the slobbering hog bad enough, so we're not going to put the slobbering hog out there. Yeah, that slobbering hog's getting out there.
Think about it.
Yeah, I got to imagine he felt pretty confident that they're going to get at least 500,000. So, all right, Danny, appreciate you, man.
Okay, man. We'll see you.
All right, everybody. Again, follow Danny West at Danny West 24/7. Over 50,000 Razorback fans do. So be one of them if you're not already, and sign up at HawgSports.com, HawgSports.com. And this is not just for HawgSports people. I mean, that's generally, who I'd expect to come, but anybody who wants to go over there, Hogtown and stuff, maybe listen to some of the stuff that they have to say at Arkansas Edge. You can like or not like what's going on with NIL and stuff, but this is the landscape, and you see some of the teams that have really embraced NIL and have a lot of support. No, I don't think it's necessarily fair that you should point to the fans after the university makes $167 million in revenue last year and say, hey, you're the ones that's got to foot the bill. But it's really got to take everybody. It's got to take a steady stream of revenue, something like if they can get the 50-50 raffle pass, it's going to take big donors, and it's going to take the common fan to donate, and the uncommon fan to donate what they can. And that's the nature of the beast right now, like it or not. So anyway, I'm interested to go over and see what they have to say. Doing a little facilitating, not doing it for money or anything like that. Just see what happens. Everybody got to do their part, right? Okay. That's the show for the day. Go check them out at Ozarks Go, ozarksgo.net/hawg, HAWG, and enter the promo code BIDDY1 if you're a first-time subscriber. Like I've said, I used these guys before. I've had I've had at least 3 other internet service providers. None of them has been on the level as Ozarks Go, and that's just the truth. Like, yes, they're a show sponsor, but guys, I believe in the product. They do a great job. They don't bleep out. I don't plug and unplug. I don't get in arguments with my family over the internet. We might get in other arguments, but it's not about that. All right, everybody. That's the show for today. Appreciate Wes Rucker for hopping on. Thank you to all of you. Sorry we didn't get to your questions. We're just jamming so much in there. Try to keep these. My goal is like 45 minutes, and we go almost an hour every single time. So I'm going to find a show. Maybe we'll do the bye week where we'll really dive into some questions or something like that. That might be a good thing. But I usually do that, and I hate that I haven't been able to get to it as much. But I hope you guys enjoyed the content that we did provide. And thanks to Danny West also, and Connor Goodson, and of course to all of you for joining us on the show today. This has been Trey Biddy with HawgSports.com, and we'll catch you next time.